what are the arguments that matter to people who don't happen to be libertarians?
Right. And this is super important because I tell people when someone asks you why you need, because you will, even still today, you will get the question if the weapon you chose, right, and you're a first time gun owner or whatever, and the weapon you chose was an AR or an AK, I think you made the right choice. But you will still get people who might be more sensitive now, but they'll still be confused as to why you need that weapon, right? And the worst thing you could say is, well, the Second Amendment, right? Because you're making a legal technical argument. What you're actually arguing, because if they disagree with you, the argument you have just made is what we need to do is repeal the Second Amendment. That's why I never talk about the Second Amendment really outside of legal technical contexts. Because the fact is, if you want to convince people that gun rights are important, you shouldn't be talking about the Second Amendment. You should be talking about real world situations, the real world that we live in, which is, guess what? The Supreme Court has said repeatedly that the police have no duty to protect you. And guess what? We've seen repeatedly that we do not live in a utopia. Things can go sideways, and they can go sideways fast. And if that happens, you're on your own. And so choosing to purchase and keep an effective firearm is kind of like putting on a seatbelt, right? That's how I view it. I'm actually an incredible pacifist, and people, are sometimes surprised to hear that. And I'm like, well, why would you be? I have this in case the worst day of my life were to happen, not the best day. I mean, of course, my collection weapons are another story. Like, you wouldn't see me using my Brita PG, in defense of myself. That would be kind of silly. No, it's my AK-74 is what I would trust. And the reason I have an AK-74 would be if the most horrible thing ever were to happen, that I would have a fighting chance as an innocent person, as a person who does not harm other people, to come out on the other side okay. And so that's the question. What is more fair? A system where an innocent person who does not want to harm other people, something terrible happens and it's, well, your time came, or you had a chance.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also sort of a goofy peacenik kind of hippie mentality on these things. And
yeah, I don't even hunt. I think it's boring and kind of gross.
Yeah. No, I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, and everybody hunted, and I was not one of those guys that wanted to go shoot something. And so I've always shot guns, but I've never owned a gun until about 4 or 5 years ago. Both my wife Terry and I decided to go through a pretty arduous process in the District of Columbia to get our handgun permits, and we did all the training and all of that. But the trigger for me was, I don't know if you remember but there was a terrorist attack in Paris at the Bataclan Theater, a band called the Eagles of Death Metal. I happened to be into the band, which I think really personalized it. But just these guys came in and just slaughtered everybody, and it resonated with me in a sense that I actually felt guilty being a gun rights person philosophically, but almost like free riding on the vague belief that someone else would take that responsibility of personal defense. So we got into it for personal security reasons. I'm not even slightly interested in any sort of like engagement. That would be a nightmare scenario for me. But I felt an individual responsibility to defend my family, and if it comes down to it, my community.
It's highly practical.